Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I am working in my art journal, so get comfy and let's get crafty. This is the Mission Inspiration December 2022 prompt. A song in your heart. Draw or paint a heart shape and fill it with the lyrics of your favorite song with a suggested color palette of red, pink, and gray. Check out what I did. So this is a piece of mixed media paper. It is about 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a layer of song paper that I printed off of my computer to the background of the page. And I went back and forth with whether or not I wanted to lay it down flat. But of course I'm not going to do that because texture is yummy. So I am going to tear this paper up. I did print it 2 times on one sheet of paper, so I have plenty to work with. Going to tear it into some pieces of paper or to smaller pieces of paper. It's already a piece of paper. The smaller pieces of paper and add it to the front of my art journal with some liquid matte gel medium and a 1-inch wide paintbrush, or not painting. So is it technically a paintbrush? I don't know. So I don't know if everybody does this, but every year there's like 1 or 2 Christmas songs that kind of rattle around my brain. I find myself humming them or getting more excited when I hear them playing. And this year, A Little Town of Bethlehem is one of those songs. It's a little bit different every year. Usually there's 2 or 3 that I kind of pick as my quote favorite, But this year it happened to be A Little Town of Bethlehem. So this paper, it's kind of a vintage hymn book page. And I've changed the distressing or the grunging from a brown to a gray because gray is one of our suggested colors for our color palette. And the only thing I'm trying not to do is put the paper back together in the way that it was before I tore it apart. I'm going to have horizontal pieces. I'm going to have vertical pieces. I'm going to have pieces that look like they could go together but don't. I'm going to work on having some inside out, upside down, and all the way around and backwards. So, ignore the bruises on my hand. I promise everything is fine. I had a little bit of issue having some blood work drawn post-surgery this week. And this is the first video I'm filming. So, of course, they're brilliant in all of their shades of glory, right? Oh, my gosh. It seems like as bruises heal, they get more and more vibrant in their colors. But I promise everything's fine. They're just ugly. So, do you guys have that where you have one favorite song every year that kind of rattles around your brain? If that happens to you, leave me a comment down below and tell me what your song is this year. I am also kind of a stickler about Christmas songs. They have to be, at least about winter time. I mean, let's face it, Let It Snow is not exactly a Christmas song, especially because there's plenty of places in the world where snow and Christmas do not align, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, right? But I do require that my Christmas songs be about Christmas or winter. I am open to religious Christmas songs. I am open to secular Christmas songs. They just need to be, Christmassy. To that end, Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart is not, in my head, a Christmas song. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying that's more like I got dumped on Christmas, not a Have a Merry Christmas song. Anyway, we'll just let that be for now. I'm just going to continue to add these song papers to the background. My mom asked me one time why I put paper down and then covered it up. So why do I go to the step of taking this piece of paper and tearing it up and adding texture and layers and then put other things on top of it? And that's because in art journaling and mixed media art, texture is yummy, right? We like to have all of those things in the background that are not really a part of the page, but the page would be less interesting without. So that's why I do it. And this is something I learned both from Mike over at Mission Inspiration, but also from Vicky Papanayu on YouTube and other YouTube artists that I've watched them as they create. That texture really does create it's like stepping up your page, right? I could totally have done this without adding the background paper or without tearing it up, but I like how it looks. Okay, so now that I have all those pieces on, I am going to zip through the heat setting part of this and jump right on into the trimming it down to make the edges smooth again. I am going to be using my long Tim Holtz scissors. These are a non-stick Teflon, so if by chance there is any of that liquid matte medium that is still tacky or wet and it gets on my scissors, it is not a big deal. I can just take a baby wipe or my rag that you can kind of sort of see in that upper right hand corner and just wipe off the blades, put them back in their cover, and stick them back in my drawer until I need them the next time. I could have used my paper trimmer, but I have the scissors, why not use them? Paper trimmer probably would have been a straighter line. Let's just be honest. Straight lines and I, we're not exactly friends. Okay, the next step in my texture is to push this text back. So that's another question I've been asked. Why am I now going to cover it up with gesso? Well, because I don't want this to be the focal point of my page. So I am going to take this pot of photo art gesso. This is a canvas priming gesso is what the label says, which technically I think all gesso is. This is an older pot I found in the back of one of my drawers that I am trying to use up before it completely separates and is not any good anymore. And I'm watering it down. This gesso is also a little bit thicker than some of the other white gessos that I have. Although it looks like I'm creating a mostly opaque page with this gesso, it will dry back more translucent. It's not going to be completely transparent. There will be things that you don't see, but it is translucent. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that up, do a quick cleanup, and then I will zoom through, well, in English, the heat setting with my heat tool again. And I left this part in so that you could see that as it dried, it really did kind of pop to the foreground. But now I need to add that gray grunge back in. So I have pulled out my watering can archival ink and a sponge ink blending, a foam ink blending tool. There we go, foam ink blending tool. I'm going to go around the edges just a little bit and put some of that gray color back in, add a little bit of the grunge and the distress, because again, this is an image of an antique hymn book page that I printed off my computer. I could have used a blending brush, but I try to avoid using the blending brushes in my archival ink because I have one set of blending brushes and I don't want to mix types of ink. So archival is a waterproof ink. It is a solvent based, so that's why. I also have in my collection this package of water-soluble oil pastels. Now, I know there are people who do fabulous works of art with oil pastels. I just add color to my pages because I am not that kind of an artist. Sorry if you can hear the clock. It is turning 12 o'clock here, so it has lots of things to say. I'm the only one in my house today, so I left my craft room doors open so you get to hear all the house noises. Okay, I am taking this red water-soluble pastel and drawing the worst symmetrical heart, the least symmetrical heart you've probably seen since your kindergartner came home with his hand-drawn artwork. Then I'm going to take my large brush and activate that water-soluble pigment. I do end up grabbing a thinner brush, like a 1/2-inch brush, because this gets to be a little bit too big when I come to do the edges. I have a spray bottle on my desk. I'm just adding water when I need to activate that pigment. And I am going to fill in this heart in its entirety. See, I got smart and got a smaller brush there. I did grab the smaller brush so that I can go ahead and activate that pigment on the outside edge of the heart where I drew it. Apparently my brush was a little bit stiff and I needed to loosen it up a little bit in my water pot there off to my left-hand side. I intentionally did not fuss about this heart. I knew that if I just sat down to draw it, it was not going to be perfect like if I had cut a piece out with my Cricut or if I printed one and traced around it. I went for as true as it gets. And there's a lot of things that I do really well hand drawing things isn't one of them. I'm just going to throw that out there. This is not one of the skills that I have yet to embrace as being in my good at category. So I knew my heart was probably going to look a little wonky. I knew that my heart was going to look a little lopsided. I decided to not care or to embrace it. I shouldn't say I don't care. I'm embracing that. This is my art journal. This is not Clip Art's art journal or my Cricut art journal. This is my art journal. So every once in a while, I need to put something that's a little bit more real in here, which is why I also am using my very own handwriting to put the song lyrics in. It's painful to watch, I promise, especially for those of you who have gorgeous handwriting. I can start out really pretty, but then I get going 100 miles an hour, and, well, that's a story for later on down the video. I am going to go ahead and heat set that with my heat tool, zoom through that. And it's not a perfect coating of color, but I like it. Again, texture is beautiful. And then I'm going to take this kind of darkish, it's kind of like a grayish blue or a dark, I don't know if it's navy is the right word. It's a bluish color. And I'm going to draw kind of a sloped edge down here at the bottom. And I'm going to fill that in with pigment as well. And then I will activate that pigment with my paintbrush and just completely cover that bottom, 2 inches or so with pigment as well. Now, blue is not one of our suggested, or I don't know if suggested is the right word, but offered colors in our color palette for this art journal. But it's kind of a grayish blue, so yeah, it works. And it works good with the piece I'm going to add onto the bottom here. I did not make my heart take up the entire page because I do have something else I want to add down here. I did get a little bit fancy and attempt to draw a little palm tree at the bottom right hand or bottom left hand corner of this page because a little town of Bethlehem would not have traditional evergreens. It would have a palm tree. The drawing itself is fine. I probably drew it a little thicker than I should have because, activating that pigment, it spreads. But it turns out to be kind of a moot point because it's going to get covered up. So whatever, it is what it is. I'm just going to go ahead and add the trunk and the branches or the fronds, palm fronds, that's what they're called, right? And activate that pigment with my narrow paintbrush as well. And it's kind of funny because when I'm voicing over what I have created, especially because I just made this page today and I'm doing the voiceover right after I got it created and edited, and I'm looking at it going, well, that started off really good. Where did that turn wrong? But when I was drawing it, I felt like, Leonardo da Vinci. So, it's kind of funny. I don't know. That's just insight into the mind of Jenny that you probably wish you didn't have before now. Whatever. We're going to go ahead and heat set that really fast. And then I'm going to cover this with a layer of clear gesso. I am using clear gesso because I want all of this pigment to hold its intensity. But in order to write over that, the red heart with the oil pastel, I don't know if the pen I want to use will write on that without adding the clear gesso. So I'm just going to take my 1-inch brush and slap a layer of this clear gesso over the top. And because I activated all of the pigment, I tried really hard not to leave any inactivated portions of pigment. And because I am trying to only go over the area one time, I'm doing a really good job of not smearing any of that red pigment. Because, red pigments, they're a beast. I mean, holy cow, red is a hard pigment. But I'm also trying to make it a thin layer, which down at the bottom was a little interesting. But I'm going to zoom through the heat drying process, and I actually even let it set a little bit longer and went and had a little bit of a snack. And I'm going to go ahead and hand write my lyrics. So in my stash, I have these dual liner pens. And if you are a child of the 70s and 80s, you probably remember these. They write in a metallic color, but then there's like a different color outline to the letters. So I am going to hand scratch the lyrics to "O Little Town of Bethlehem" into my heart. Now, I paid zero attention to the layout because, songs have stanzas and there's, I also paid zero attention to whether or not I was writing in a straight line. I did make sure that I spelled all of the words, especially Bethlehem, correctly, because spelling is also one of those things that does not belong in my I can do it well category. This is also the only part of the video that I sped up. I cut a lot of things out, but other than the heat drying, I guess, this is the only part of the video that I actually sped up. Okay, now that I have all of the lyrics on there, I want to add this little cutout piece of a city. I just did a Google search for "A Little Town of Bethlehem" cities. And I liked this one because it's in kind of a grayish blue shade. I've cut that out. I've gone around the edges with a black. I used a Sharpie for most of the parts, and then some in the littler pieces I used a pen to go around the edges to kind of hide that white core. And I am going to add some gel medium, some matte gel medium, to adhere this city down to the bottom of my page, as well as that star. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a rather thick coat on the back of this paper. This is a 60 or 65 pound cardstock that will go through my printer. So it's a little bit thicker. It needs a little bit more of a thicker coat of medium. And I'm trying to do two things: not cover up too many words and also not hang off the page, which really I could have trimmed off and that would have been a non-issue. But in my mind, that's what I'm doing. Don't cover up too many words and don't hang off the page. Whatever. I'm going to use my fingers to kind of push those little fidgety pieces down. And this is why I kind of drew that palm tree. But it's a good thing we're covering up because it is way out of scale, y'all. That looks like a alien palm tree. I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea now. The image that I cut out did have some palm trees in the background that I was not about to cut around because they were just super thin. And that's why I decided that maybe I could add a palm tree in the back. But wowzer, that is really not to scale. I probably should have stuck that little image down on the paper and decided how big I needed it before I did that. But it doesn't matter because I'm putting the star right over the top of it. Again, the yellow, not really one of our offered colors in our palette, but that's okay. It works for me. So I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of gel medium over the top, and then I'm going to zoom through the heat drying. And here is our prompt card: a song in your heart, handwritten lyrics of your favorite song, and our suggested color palette. And I am going to adhere the prompt card to the back of my page. I'm using just some double-sided, oh my goodness, words are hard, double-sided adhesive to put those back together. And that way, when I go back and look at my art journal pages, I can remember why I did my page the way I did my page. Or, when my kids are cleaning out my stuff after I die and, before they burn it all and or throw it all away, they'll be able to tell why I made this page. Hopefully they don't throw it all away, but I'll be dead, so theoretically it won't bother me. I don't know. I am going to go ahead and sign this side of the page. I'm just going to sign and date it. 12/22. And here is my finished page, kind of zooming in on those song lyrics, hoping you can kind of see the metallic pen as well as the outline color. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I have added a couple of other videos here I think you would also enjoy, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment, tell me your favorite Christmas song, give me a thumbs up, and have a great day.